Good evening, and thanks again for joining us. We have two wonderful panelists with us this evening to talk about the experience of women in prison and coming back into society after leaving prison. Our first panelist is Tamika Daniel. You'll recognize her from the film. Tomika is an entrepreneur originally from Detroit, Michigan, but currently residing in Pittsburgh. And she says, go Steelers. And I agree. She's employed by Supreme Traffic Control LLC as a traffic control specialist and is the owner operator of Bailey's Logistics LLC. In 2020, Tamika graduated from Allstate Career with a GPA of 3.9 and obtained her commercial driver's license, complemented by several endorsements. In 2021, she received her associate's degree in culinary arts and science and hospitality, which will help her in her future business endeavor as a restaurateur. Terri Minor Spencer is the outreach coordinator of White Lily Baptist Church, where she is a member. Terri has over 2 decades of organizing with community leaders, and she's a strong advocate for the men and women doing life without the possibility of parole. She's a strong advocate also for voters' rights for formerly incarcerated individuals. She has received a proclamation from the city of Pittsburgh making October 7th Terri Minor Spencer Day for her advocacy and community outreach volunteerism. Terri's a graduate of the Emerge PA cohort, which teaches women how to run for office. Terri is one of Pittsburgh Courier's 2019 Women of Excellence and co-hosted for the Juneteenth Black Tie Affair. Terri's been featured in Public Source. She was a candidate for the Jefferson Awards, has done a radio segment with 90.5 WESA on the people who make the place they live a better place. She's been featured in Noble Magazine, that's the National Organization of Black Legal Executives, and she's spoken at the viewing of The Sentence, the documentary of a woman's 15-year sentence under the mandatory minimum. She's worked and continues to work selflessly and relentlessly in her fight for a change of the old-time machine that condones decriminalization and incarceration of our communities. So with that, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm going to just begin with a general question and we'll see how things move from there. So first, could you each briefly tell us what led to your incarceration? And do you feel that being incarcerated was the right way of handling your case? Or was there something you believe may have been a better way of managing it? So whoever wants to go first. Terri, if you'd like to go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, yes, sure. Thank you for having us. Thank you so much. And so what led to my incarceration? Addiction. So I, myself and my family honestly thought that when I went in front of the judge that I would get rehab. Well, the judge thought different and sentenced me to 16 years in prison. And so could something else have happened? It depends on what day of the week. You asked me that because today I can say I strongly believe that it saved my life. But did I have to do 16 years to get to where I am? I can debate that, you know. So yes, it depends on I know that while I was there, I learned who I was. I learned who I am. So I have to take the bitter with the sweet. Yes.
And Tomika.
For me, I found myself a lot saying that it started because of my mother's addiction, and that's what landed me in prison. But that's not the case. You know, I got 2 other sisters who didn't go to prison. They figured it out, you know, so that's not the case. It was actually what you said, Miss Terri, was the addiction. You know, I got out there. Initially, it did start from survival, and me choosing that lifestyle was to survive. But eventually I started to like it. You know, I became addicted to the lifestyle, addicted to the money, and that's what landed me in prison. Do I think, and again, like you, I think that prison saved my life. You know, if
Yeah.
maybe if they would have said a year or two, then maybe I would have went in, made sure I had money on my books and came out with the same behavior. But when they said 10 years, that was like an eye opener, you know? So I do believe that it saved my life too. And it was crazy, as my mother told me when I went away, she said she could finally sleep at night.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
My mom said that too. Yeah.
Yeah, because they worry about us being out here in the streets and, you know, just everything that happens in the streets. So,
Yeah. My mom used to
And-
say every time the phone rang, her heart jumped.
Mm.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
mothers are going to worry. That's just the nature of mothers. So, well, can you talk a little bit about your overall experience in prison? I think both of you have said it's changed you. It did change you, but just, generally, can you talk about that experience? And
Yeah.
whoever wants to go first can go.
So for me, I went through several different things. When I first went in, there was drugs in the prison, just like it was here out in the street, you know. And so I would witness, especially the women that was not from United States. I would witness them getting abused. The officers were very abusive sexually, and would ask because they wouldn't get money because, you know, from out of the country, like we was getting money, you know, their families was not able or, you know, to send money. So they was doing sexual favors. So I went through that. But I also went through, I have it's just a family that you have that will be for the rest of our lives. You know, I have to tell you, to me, because in June, we are having, like, every year we have a reunion that everyone that's home, and this year's in Houston, Texas. But I'll keep you up on that. But so yeah, so it's a family that there's certain things that I can see or certain things that I can feel that nobody in my family here or that my husband, nobody can understand what I'm saying except my sisters that was in the belly of the beast with me. You know, so nobody knows what a fog day feels like when you riding down and it's foggy. Nobody understands that. Now you got to grade and get locked in because it's foggy, you know, and it's things like that for me that I will never forget and treasure. So that's my experience.
My experience when I first went in, I was at a larger facility, and it was just like, I kind of went in with the attitude like, okay, I got 10 years mandatory. And, you know, like I found myself jumping back into some of my old behaviors with the 2-for-1s and all of that. Yeah. And then I just said, you know what, Tamika, you are like blocking your blessings, because even though it's a different product, it's the same behavior. And that's what I had to work on. So I started working on myself, and I started taking advantage of different programs that they offer. And it really wasn't that many, but I was just adamant about, you know, I'm in Ohio, I don't know nobody there. So I just started like working on myself. Then I got moved to Cleveland, and then it was like a whole game changer, like reintegration, reentry, women in recovery, like officers, wardens, people that really cared, that treated us like women, that, you know, so family bonding, that was like one of their big things. So I was able to see my daughter a lot and bond with her through different events. And that's why she didn't know I was in prison, you know, because she would come and think it's a party, it's horses, hayride, whatever, you know. And but I just started just working on myself. I changed my thinking and just started trying to, well, what was crazy was a bill had came into place. It was House Bill 86. And it went into place right after I had got sentenced. And it was one thing on there that I qualified for, and that was that 80% judicial. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get this because I got mandatory time, but that's the one thing that I qualify for. So I just kept saying, I'm gonna do this. And when I get to my 8 years, I'm gonna file for it, and I'm gonna get it. And I was like, maybe the 12th or the 13th person who got it out of
Wow.
all those years. So yeah, I just said I needed to change my ways. If I can't act right while I'm in prison to try to go home early to my daughter, then what's the point? So my experience overall, it wasn't bad. I learned a lot about myself, and I'm not saying this or taking away from nobody else's experience, because it's hard on the inside, especially if you don't have friends and family and support and all of that. It can be hard. So just I was fortunate enough to be in a place where people really cared. That's how we were able to go out into the community every day and start doing things like that. So my experience wasn't that bad. Now, do I want to go back? No, but I survived it.
I can relate to that, to me, because you know what, when like I was saying, there was drugs there like it was out here. And I remember the one morning we wasn't allowed to smoke I smoked cigarettes back then, but you weren't allowed to smoke cigarettes in the units. And but we used to smoke cigarettes in the unit. And so it's like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I go to the laundry room to go smoke a cigarette. And I see the officer and a friend of mine, and she's giving them sexual favors on her knees. And I froze. I knew what goes on. I know I hear it all the time, but I literally froze. I could hear him saying, "Minor, close the door, close the door." It seemed like I was standing there for 10 minutes, but it probably was like a quick 30 seconds. But I went back to my room, and I remember I didn't smoke the cigarette. I remember believing to myself, this is great to be me. And within the next, this is great to be me. And that's where I went, Tamika, like, I got to change my ways. I got to change my thinking. I got to change, you know what I'm saying? So I went to my counselor that next morning and was like, I want to go to the drug program, because there's a drug program. So I went to that. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's where my circle started turning around. Yeah.
Well, you've talked about how hard this is. What would you say was the hardest thing for both of you? And I guess, Tamika, I know you mentioned about your daughter, but I don't know if that was the hardest thing that you faced, but if you want to talk a little bit about that, what was most difficult during your time?
Being away from my daughter, being away from my daughter, that was like, everything I did, every decision I made, it was all just like for her, so that was the hardest thing for me. Like personally, I mean, on the inside, it was some things that was hard. And I mean, my bunkie neighbor killed herself, I found her. So, I mean, we experienced those type of things in there, but overall, the hardest thing for me personally in my life was just leaving my daughter. And even when I watched that documentary, it was so much hearing her talk, her just seeing the way that she was, like, I missed all of that, but I had to remind myself, like, the better years are still best to come. So, I always try to flip it around and look at the glass half full all the way. It was hard being there, but I was fortunate. I had good family and support to help raise her. She did a wonderful job, so that was the blessing in it.
Yeah. How old was she when you went to prison?
She was 9 months.
9 months. Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I gotta
really
agree. Family. And then also the hardest, what the hardest was, as Tamika was talking, I was thinking of, I remember when we used to, like, if you had mental issues, or if you they always wanted to put you on we call them zombie pills, and it made you a different person, and we used to, like, we lost friends mentally through that. And like, somebody might be having a nervous breakdown, they'll immediately put them on these pills, and they're just never the same. They're gone. They're no longer the same person. I remember when, several times this one young lady, I think her family sued the prison too, I'm not sure, but Sandra, she kept complaining of a headache, kept complaining of a headache, and she had an aneurysm. They just kept giving her Tylenol, and she died. Just things like that was the hardest, getting very close to someone, and then they go to the infirmary or they go to the, and they don't come back. That's really, 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 really hard.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you spent time in solitary confinement too, is that correct?
I did.
Yeah.
So when the first time when I got there, the very first time, I always talk about the time when I had onion and they put me in a hole. That was like, for an onion, I didn't know. And
I
I just
read
got
that.
there. Oh, okay. Yeah. But it mentally did something to me. And because first of all, I didn't know. Second of all, I was like, somebody did something wrong. This is a mistake. Somebody great come get me, because I know I'm not in this hole, and this still, like, the bed is still, the toilet is still, like, there's something wrong. There's no windows. You don't know if the windows is like real far up, and you don't know what time it is. And it's just the craziest thing. You don't have no roommate. And then, see, I didn't know that people, because all day they slept, everybody slept. And it's like, why is everybody, like, it's so quiet? I didn't know they were taking the zombie pills and they were sleeping all day, then they'd be up all night. I didn't, but it always made me think of the people that was there for 15 years, 20 years. And literally the system, the way they open it up and say, okay, you go back on the compound. That's it. No mental help, nobody to talk, like, how you doing? And that always, bothered me. And so that's the time I talk about. But there are times that we did like sit outs. We went to the hole. If a guard, there was several times a guard was just highly disrespectful and or racist. So just sit out. We're not going in. We ain't going, so, but we was always right. And the good thing is they will be removed, because there's always a camera that can see that we're not just making this up. This person, just individual, just did this. So, yeah.
Right. Tomika, did you have that experience at all of solitary while you were there?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
I
that's
did
good.
not. Like, no, I mean,
Good.
could have easily happened, but it didn't take long for me to, to address. I knew that I was moving wrong. And the thing is, greed, one of those deadly sins, like my thing in there, like when I was at Marysville, I used to be big on the 2-for-1s, like I ran these stores, and it was just like I had a good system going on. And it was like, come on now, Tamika. And one day, officer told me, like, do you need help? Like, if you need somebody to talk to, I could talk to you, because I know that you got your stuff over at this person's bed and at this person's bed. And he didn't knock me for it, but he talked to me and gave me a warning. And I pretty much just took heed to my warning and just, had a reality check, doing too much.
Well, I can tell you, I actually worked a couple of years ago with a man who had spent 4 years in solitary, and I know people spend lots longer than that, but it was so obvious how it had affected him in so many negative ways. And he was still struggling after being out for a while, and was really fortunate to have some wonderful mentors to work with him and help him out as he was going through his coming back to society. But well, I guess maybe now let's, if we could talk a little bit about coming out of prison. And if you could talk about, that experience, your initial experience, and kind of how that went once you were out.
Yeah. So for me, when I came home in 2007. And what worked for me was that I literally was 1000% honest with my case worker. And when you first get there, you meet your caseworker the next morning. So when I met her the next morning, I literally was like, listen, I don't know how to fill out a job application. I don't know what to say on a job interview. I need mental help. When I left, it was beepers, people talking to themselves right now. They got something sticking out their ear. I don't know what's going on. I need some help. And so, so I said, and literally her assistant was literally like, Miss Carol. Miss Carol said, Miss Minor, we have never had a woman in this halfway house do as much time as you. So if you can tell us, what do you think you need? And then we can help you with what we think you need. And so just being 1000% with, this is who I am, like, this is who I am, and this is what I need help with, really, really, really helped me. They sent me to this career development course. And that career development course changed my life. It literally changed my life. I guess we may talk about it later, I don't know, but I literally implemented it back into the city. We just got funding for it, yeah, because when we graduated, it was 15 of us graduated, and 13 of us is still just out here giving back. Or they're business owners, they're just giving back. One person is deceased, and the other person went back to prison. But the 3 months after we graduated, the city stopped funding this program. So it always bothered me that, there's nothing that if people come home, they got their Greyhound bus ticket. What is it? I think it's like $103 or $130 or something like that. And that's it. That's it. There's no skill set. There's nothing waiting for you to, that's it. That's all that our system offers, so yeah. So for me, that's what helped me. Yeah.
And for me, I don't know. I just I had made a few connections while I was still on the inside with a few friends. So they had pretty much was saying like, we can get you a job when you get out. So they surprised me. I got out like late Monday night. I got out on a Monday night, went home. Tuesday, I went and met my PO. Wednesday, I went to PennDOT to get an ID, and I ended up leaving with a driver's license. So I was like, okay. Thursday, I went for this training for my job. Friday, I went and got some Medicaid. And then Monday, I was at work. I just came out and just got right to it.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic hit. So then once that came, I just started working more. Well, prior to that, I kept trying to figure out how could I make money fast the right way. So jump in the truck driving business. It's a forgiving industry, so I went to school, got my CDLs, started doing that, started a trucking company. But I'm gonna tell you, it wasn't easy. My parole officer, he was like giving me a hard time. I had got a job as a hospitality manager, starting off at like 58,000, but it required me to go do training for 10 weeks. So like 4 weeks in Dallas, 4 weeks here, and he wouldn't approve me to go travel to do the training to get the job, So it was like, every time I'm trying to do something right, the door would close. There's always somebody. And it's just like, wow, like, but I realized they were tests. Everything, all of these are tests, and either you're gonna pass them or you're gonna fail them. So coming home, so yeah, like I said, I started working and jumped back into that. But my parole officer wasn't nice. And then even with the trucking company, I was limited on what I could do. He's like, well, Tamika, you can go anywhere in Pennsylvania, but you can't go to Ohio. You can't go to West Virginia. And I got loads that's like 60 miles away, but you'll let me drive 300 miles, but you won't let me. So those were the things. I couldn't travel out of state. So I wasn't as successful with the trucking as I wanted to be because of those restrictions, but it's okay. I put the good with the bad. Things are working out. One of the most challenging things for me coming home was rebuilding that relationship with my daughter. She's 11. She's at that age where, they're wanting the social media and all of that. And I'm the bad mom. I don't know if I'm old school because I'm like, nah, we ain't TikToking. We not doing none of that. You know what I mean? So it was just like jumping back in. And my mom's like, well, Tamika, you're coming off like the warden. And and I'm like, Mom, you're old school. You don't understand technology. And there's pedophiles out here and there's people that's preying on these kids, So that was one of the things. And, but we're working on that. Honestly, I could say that I can see the progression that we've made in these 2 years. And I know that it's only going to get better. So,
yeah.
And I see you named your trucking company after your daughter. That's wonderful.
Everything. I'm actually in the process of opening up a restaurant lounge,
Oh, wow.
and it's going to be called
Cool.
Bailey's too. Miss
Okay.
Manor, I did not know you was in Pittsburgh. When I saw the 412 area code, I'm like, okay, this is good. Like, I'm happy
Yeah.
to be making
Yeah,
connections
you
with
two need
people
to
in my
get
own
together.
city.
What part, where you at?
I live in Forest Hills.
I'm in West End. I'm in the West
Okay,
End.
cool. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, while we're on the subject of I know now I'm trying to remember exactly, Terry, what you said, but there was something about going on. If we got to this, I'm going to open up and just ask you to share, some, whatever additional you would like about this, sort of
West End.
moving on.
Yeah. So when I was in the halfway house, I remember it's 2008 now, and I remember it was time to vote, and literally the staff, the people, my sisters, no one knew that we had the power to vote. And I was like, we can vote. And they were like, I don't think we can. I was like, yes, we can vote. So long story short, they found out that we can vote. My counselor helped so many people get registered to vote. And so it was like about 45, 50 of us went out of the halfway house on renewal and went to vote for Barack Obama. And I remember that feeling like, wait a minute, we making history here, y'all. And so now I got my job in a halfway house at Poise Foundation, and but it always kept nagging me, like, who else don't know this? Like, who else don't know that we can vote, And so one day I'm talking to a community member, and we just started talking, and long story short, I created a nonprofit called West Empower. Empower is providing opportunity with effective resources. And so we do an educational community civic series. We literally, because what I found out was that we came out, the lines was around the block for the presidential election. But then that next election came up, and I think it was like 6:30 in the evening. I was like number 15, 20. I was like, where's everybody at? And these are our local. This is the most important elections in our lives. And so it was like, where's everybody at? But no one knew. So you don't know what you don't know, And so we decided to teach it. And so that's what we do. We teach educational community civic series. We have a website. I have a podcast. I have a YouTube channel. We do, right now we are doing it's called Colorful Background Expo. And Expo is EXPO, and that's ex-incarcerated people organizing. I say colorful background because for me, inmate was never used as in a positive term. It was always used to belittle us. And so for me, the word inmate is like calling me the N-word. So I will never call no one an inmate, and I hopefully no one calls me one, but people don't know what they don't know. So if they do, thinking that that's just the term, I politely say, I'm a person with a colorful background. I am not what they labeled me to be. And so we teach so much stuff at West Empower, and it's all based on men and women with colorful backgrounds. We're doing a job that the Colorful Background Expo is a 12-week job readiness and etiquette, and that's the place that I went to, and then 3 months later they stopped funding it. And so what we did was we recreated it, but we added the voting rights in there, and we added mental health in there as well. So it's literally, it starts from, it's anything from what side of the plate do your water glass go on? What do you do with your napkin at a dinner meeting? How do you tie a tie? Women, I learned that women in a job interview technically should not wear long dangly earrings. We should not wear perfume. You don't know these things, you know what I'm saying? And so we also have clothes for men to go on job interviews as well. So so we do, and then they can take that because it's a certificate at the 12 weeks and put that on their job resume as well. So yeah.
Wow, that's terrific. I know that we try to do a lot of this voter education But, I'm trying to do this from like the 10,000-foot level. And I love when I hear people doing this at the grassroots level and really, being able to tell folks. But, it's to the advantage of those who don't want folks to vote to not share that information, unfortunately. So, Tamika, what do you want to add something on to that? Do you have something?
Yeah, I just want to say, really impressive what you're doing, Terri. Keep up the good work. And it's crazy that you say about inmate, because when I told you I got moved to this new place in Cleveland, that was one of the things that they didn't stand for. The officers, they weren't allowed to call us inmates. We were residents or restored citizens. They took the
Yes.
word inmate out. So, when you said that, it just, brought
I'm so
back
happy
those,
to hear that.
Yes, they're not allowed to call, but that's all part of reintegration.
Yeah.
We're restored citizens, and so yeah, that was
Yeah.
I know that feeling.
I'm so happy to hear that. I am so happy to hear that because it's like a fight. It's like a ongoing fight because you hear it on the news, you hear it, but again, it always go back. You just don't know what you don't know.
Right.
People don't know that is a term that it belittles us. They don't know. You know what I'm saying? So we're here to teach them though.
Right.
Well, and it's a long-term educational effort to get rid of those labels.
Yes.
Because that's all they are labels. And
Right.
labels can hurt.
And even with the voting and what you're saying as far as that, I know that a lot of people are saying like, well, what can we do? What can we do? Or how can we change? Well, we got to be a voice for ourselves. We got to get out here and start voting. And like you said, a lot of people don't realize that they can vote. Or when they do vote, it's only for the big election every 4 years.
Yeah.
And that is great, but we need the ones right here that's focusing on our own community and,
Yeah.
So, or you complain about these prosecutors or these elected officials, will do something to get them out,
Yeah. Tamika, you are so right, because when we have the class before pre-COVID, we will have it personal, in person. And the first time we had it, it was maybe 8 people. Before COVID, it was like standing room only in a church that was like, or a hall that was huge, and so, I mean, we even taught we did one on the ward seats, that and the importance of what does a ward seat, what do they do? And in 2018, 10 women, they came and learned, 10 women ran for the seats, 9 of them won. So yeah, it's extremely, because my thing be, we are never in my lifetime, I believe that we are never going to be able to pick up a phone and say, Mr. or Mrs. President, I want to have a meeting with you about your budget. But our local offices, you don't just go knock on the door. Just go knock on the door and make an appointment. You know what I'm saying? These are your local, local is the most important elections in our life. And so that's what we teach. Yeah.
Well, I think we've been about half an hour already, but so I want to start getting to a period of wrapping up. But I guess my next question, and maybe the sort of final question, would be, what kind of advice would you give to women either facing incarceration, experiencing incarceration, or re-entering society after being released? What would any advice that you can give that you feel would be helpful?
Entering incarceration, that's the beginning, like, that's the whew. It depends on the sentence, because if it's over 5 years, your first 3 to 4 years is going to be the hardest. Acceptance is the key. Right now I have a friend, associate that went to Alderson, and literally she ain't been there 3 months, and she's passing out on the floor thinking they're going to send her home because she's not. I'm like, they're not sending you home because you're passing out. But acceptance is the key, and it makes sure once you accept, be just like what Tomika said. You start finding out what programs is available, what can I get, what can I do in here to take out there, and just invest yourself. You know, and now if you're coming home, my that I tell everyone is, you know, you have to be real with yourself. You know that you cannot, for me, I cannot go into a trap house and say, I'm just here to help y'all. No. You know, if you have a problem with alcohol, if you have a problem, you can't go in a bar and just say, oh, I just come to play pool. You know, we have to be real with ourselves. We have to not be afraid to seek the help that we need. You know, because like I said, people is coming home not ever seeing a social media. So this is a whole new world to people, and just try to make spaces that is available for them, and let them know that you can go here, you can go here, you can go here, connect with this person. And so that's what I would say. Like, always try to find that light, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's for women going in. I know my faith got stronger, you know. I had never called out to my higher power so much before. Like, I just started believing. I built a relationship with Christ, and you know, so that helped a lot. Going in, I mean, being in, just taking advantage of everything that you can learn, just learn as much as you can. I learned so much stuff while I was on there. I was doing filming and editing. I got in the drama ministry. I just learning, just as much as I could, anything that I could get myself involved in, I took advantage of. And then also, like, coming out, like, we know it's not going to be easy. You know, like, we're out here, we're having these conversations and trying to change the justice system and get, but we got a better chance at changing ourselves before this system changes. Because it's not, this is a prison industry is a business, you know, so the odds of us shutting it down is going to be slim. So I feel like we got a better chance at trying to change ourselves, and just, you know, it's not going to be easy. You go out here, you try to get employed, and they're like, no, and they're shutting doors on you. You know, that don't mean go back out and pick up a pack. That means keep on trying. Somebody's eventually going to say, yeah, you know, it's easy to take the easy way out, but then you know, it's just not worth it. So my advice to anybody coming out, men, women, just trust the process. Trust the process, call out to your higher power. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, for me right now, life has been so rewarding, just trusting this process and just doing it. And it's, I'm not where I want to be, and not in the time that but it's just so much better. I'm not looking over my shoulders. I'm raising my daughter. I'm putting good stuff into her life. And it's just like, you know, I cried a lot. They was closing the doors. Nobody wanted to rent to me. I couldn't find a house. Everybody's like, no, I'm paying $35, $50 application fee. So finally I was just like, you know what? Let me try to buy a house. I went through the process. They never once said, have you been convicted of a felon? Never once during that whole process, you know? So guess what? It worked out better for me. I could have been like, oh, and went off the edge because didn't nobody want to rent to me. But no, a blessing came. And now I'm a homeowner, you know? So it's just like, we got to trust this process and know that it's not going to be easy, and that we don't have a testimony without tests, right?
I love that. I got to remember that one.
It's embedded here now.
Yeah, right. Well, anything else that you would like to share with our audience before we wrap up?
Well, I would like to, first of all, thank you so much for thinking of us, and, you know, giving us a space to even tell our story. I would like to hear more about Tamika's restaurant coming up, you know, and yes, if anyone that knows that someone that may need some help, please reach out. I could do, you know, anything that I can. And if I can't, I'll try to find some type of resources. So yes, thank you so much, Rev Sandy. Thank you.
I also want to say thank you for having us on this panel. And I hope that, you know, the conversation, or that we could help somebody, or at least one person, encourage somebody. You know, I'm always the one that's on the panel that is, sometimes I don't feel like I fit in, because it's always like, oh, well, the system did this and the system and it's this and it's that. And it's bad. But like my whole thing is, what do we do to stay away from it? You know, like quit putting yourself in a system where you have to rely on somebody or quit, you know. So I'm always that one that's on the panel that's trying to send a message of hope. You know, it's gonna get done. We're gonna get through it. And we just gotta just trust the process. And you know, if I could do it, you could do it. I got my GED when I got to prison, you know, had never had it before, never would have got it had I not gone, because well, I'm already out here. I got businesses. It wasn't required. But again, taking that time on the inside, using it to better yourself, because you know you're a convicted felon without a GED. So at least do
Yeah.
that, you know, just take advantage of everything that you can, and it will happen. And Miss Terri, we're in the same city. We definitely got to
Yes.
stay connected.
We definitely. I got your email. Yes.
Okay. Yes, I'm
Yes.
proud of everything you're doing. You don't look like 16 years, so
Oh, thank
keep
you.
up the
Right
good
back
work.
at you.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank both of you. I'm so grateful for two incredibly strong and articulate women to share what you've shared today. And I believe that you will have given an awful lot of people a terrific message of hope. So I thank you so much for that. So with that, I guess we'll wrap up, sign off, and thank you again for your time, Terri Minor Spencer and Tamika Daniel. Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you.
having us.